I know Karine unfortunately worked for the most incompetent president in history, so I guess she has a reason to be bitter, but being bitter will not sell you books, Jesse.
Is Peter Doocy one of those good reporters? Are you sure?
Look, Peter's a good guy. We have our tussles with Peter too. No mistakes there. And it's a stark contrast to what they had over the past 4 years, where they were gaslit, where they were told Joe Biden was mentally stable and up for the job. That was a lie. Where they were told the administration was doing everything it could to secure the border. Also a lie. I'm very proud to work for the greatest president in history.
The clash between Caroline Leavitt and former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has officially escalated. It all started after KJP got offended by a lighthearted joke Caroline made about Obama. Instead of backing off, Caroline fired back with full force, turning a simple jab into a sharp, headline-making takedown. And just like that, the tension between them is hotter than ever.
Someone who can't find work is the same person who had your job about a year ago. We call her Binder. KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre. You, I guess, had made a joke about, it was like your mama joke. And she didn't like that. This is what she said. Roll it.
It's deplorable. And I'm using that word on purpose.
Yeah.
Because they don't seem to understand, this is the Trump White House, that they don't work for just one man.
Yeah.
They work for the American people. The White House press secretary is not about doing online trolling.
Right.
It is not. It is an honor and a privilege to have that job.
Karine Jean-Pierre tried brushing off the situation by calling Caroline's joke deplorable, labeling her as nothing more than an online troll. She claimed Caroline wasn't behaving like a real White House press secretary, accusing her of wasting time on petty antics. But Caroline didn't let that slide. She hit back harder, flipping the entire narrative and delivering a comeback that was bold, direct, and impossible to ignore. And once you hear her response, you'll see why this feud isn't cooling down anytime soon.
She called you deplorable, and you say?
Well, with all due respect to my predecessor, she is one of the main culprits of the greatest cover-up and scandal in American history. She took the podium every day and lied to the press about the incompetence of her boss. And on this book tour, she continues to lie. She said this past week that Joe Biden would still be up for the job if he had, God forbid, been reelected in November. She actually said this week as well on a podcast that Joe Biden did more press engagements than President Trump currently does now. Any person across the aisle can tell you that is a bald-faced lie.
Caroline went straight on the offensive, accusing KJP of helping orchestrate what she called one of the biggest political cover-ups in U.S. history, hiding President Biden's declining mental fitness in the later years of his presidency. Now that the truth is widely discussed, Caroline says KJP is still clinging to the old script, insisting Biden was fully in command. But growing doubts, including questions about whether Biden personally approved his final pardons, have only intensified skepticism. Caroline's message was clear. KJP wasn't defending transparency. She was defending an illusion, and Americans aren't buying it anymore.
And I will just add, when you talk to the real journalists, not the ones who are actually activists that pose as journalists, but the people who actually care about truth, and there are some of those left in the White House press corps, I work with them every day, they will tell you the Trump White House is the most accessible and transparent White House ever. Not only does the president take questions from the press on a near daily basis, multiple times per day, as he did today, but we also provide truthful and accurate information about what this administration is doing and accomplishing.
Instead of getting rattled by KJP's insult, Caroline used it as fuel. After being called a troll, she drew a sharp contrast between how the press was treated under her leadership versus KJP's time at the podium. Caroline argued that the White House is now more open and straightforward, allowing reporters to ask real questions and receive real answers. She credited President Trump for setting that tone, reminding people how often he faced the press directly, something she says the Biden administration rarely did. In her words, the difference is night and day. More access, more accountability, and fewer rehearsed talking points. And the response landed perfectly.
But we also provide truthful and accurate information about what this administration is doing and accomplishing. And it's a stark contrast to what they had over the past 4 years, where they were gaslit, where they were told Joe Biden was mentally stable and up for the job. That was a lie. Where they were told the administration was doing everything it could to secure the border. Also a lie. I'm very proud to work for the greatest president in history. I know Karine unfortunately worked for the most incompetent president in history, so I guess she has a reason to be bitter, but being bitter will not sell you books.
It's hard to forget when Biden and Kamala Harris confidently declared the southern border secure. They repeated it so often that many people believed it, until the reality of more than 1 million illegal crossings proved otherwise. And that wasn't the only breakdown in credibility. The Hunter Biden laptop scandal, once dismissed and censored as Russian misinformation, was eventually confirmed as authentic. So when Caroline Leavitt accuses KJP and the administration of misleading the country, she isn't exaggerating. She's calling out years of deflection, spin, and outright denial. Somebody had to say it, and she did.
I'm very proud to work for the greatest president in history. I know Karine unfortunately worked for the most incompetent president in history, so I guess she has a reason to be bitter, but being bitter will not sell you books, Jesse.
Is Peter Doocy one of those good reporters? Are you sure?
Look, Peter's a good guy. We have our tussles with Peter too. No mistakes there.
All right.
Caroline didn't hold back. She flat out called Karine Jean-Pierre bitter, pointing out that KJP once worked for a president she described as one of the most incompetent in modern history. Meanwhile, Caroline's own performance has earned praise, from her sharp humor to her confident handling of the press. She even hinted that jealousy might be driving KJP's attitude. Watching your successor succeed where you struggled can sting. But this feud isn't just political anymore. It's personal, and Caroline has zero intention of pulling back. But she wasn't the only one who spoke up. Megyn Kelly had her own message for KJP.
She's very mad at the Democrat Party for not backing Joe Biden all the way through to the presidential election. What a farce. She was part of the cover-up. She knows damn well he couldn't have done it. She was part of the reason that they had to scramble to replace him in, June, July of 2024. But the lying as she's promoting this book about how she had no idea, she didn't see him on the plane ride over to the debate, so she just wasn't near him, as if it was just a one-night thing and she just missed it in the lead up. And then secondly, she's getting guff from Democrats for being such a turncoat. And the subtitle of the book is "It's Independent, that Insiders Look at the White House." So people are giving her a hard time, like, you're such a turncoat. The Democrat Party made you. The only reason people know your name is because of this party you're ripping on.
Megyn Kelly didn't mince words. She slammed Karine Jean-Pierre as a turncoat, accusing her of showing no gratitude to the Democratic Party that elevated her career. Before becoming press secretary, Kelly said KJP wasn't widely known outside political circles. Democrats gave her one of the nation's biggest platforms and supported her through tough moments. Yet instead of loyalty, she left the administration and started revealing internal details for her own benefit. To Kelly, that wasn't courage, it was betrayal. She viewed it as someone trying to turn public criticism into personal opportunity. And to make it worse, Kelly argued that KJP is now reinventing herself as a victim, blaming everyone but herself for her failures. In Kelly's eyes, it's a classic Washington move: burn the bridge, then pretend you never needed it. And that's exactly why her criticism hit so hard.
Are the Democrats jealous that Trump's building this big, beautiful ballroom?
It certainly appears that way, Jesse, and I believe there's a lot of fake outrage right now because nearly every single president who has lived in this beautiful White House behind me has made modernizations and renovations of their own. And in fact, presidents for decades in the modern time have quipped about how they wish they had a larger event space here at the White House that can hold hundreds more people than the current East Room and state dining rooms can. In fact, President Obama notably complained that during his tenure, he had to hold a state visit on the South Lawn and get a very expensive tent.
And this fits perfectly into what many call the Democratic Party's classic double standard. When Democrats push an idea, it's branded as bold and visionary. But when Donald Trump does something similar, critics declare it dangerous or corrupt. A perfect example is the new event space project at the White House. Presidents from both parties had discussed the need for expanded space for decades. But the moment Trump moved to implement it, opponents exploded in outrage. Same idea, different reaction, depending on the party. That's the hypocrisy people are tired of seeing.
If you talk to journalists who have covered the White House for decades, as I do here every single day, they will also tell you that administration after administration have publicly and privately spoken about the need for a larger event space. So while many presidents have privately dreamt about this, it's President Trump who is actually doing something about it. And he is the builder in chief. In large part, he was reelected back to this people's house because he's good at building things.
Donald Trump's rise to the presidency was driven by millions of Americans who believed he could restore the nation, make it stronger, more prosperous, and more respected. They saw him as a businessman capable of revitalizing the economy and rebuilding neglected infrastructure. And during his term, he pushed major projects, upgraded airports, expanded rural broadband, improved highways, and continued the U.S.-Mexico border wall. These efforts symbolized his commitment to rebuilding America's foundation. His supporters weren't just voting for a man, they were voting for a vision of revival and resilience.
And construction is a process at the end. The East Wing, which is an entirely separate structure from the executive mansion you see behind me, will be more modern and beautiful than ever. And then on top of that, the White House is going to have a big, beautiful ballroom for generations of Americans to come. And the best part of it all, it's not a dime of the taxpayers' money. The president has worked hard to privately fund this entire project from start to finish.
You'd think critics would calm down after learning the new project was privately funded. But no, they still accuse Trump of destroying tradition or altering the White House unnecessarily. But here's the truth. This expansion isn't a vanity project. It's a practical modernization that future presidents of any party will benefit from. More space for official events, improved infrastructure, and enhanced security are upgrades long overdue. Critics can shout, but history will likely see it as a forward-thinking enhancement. At this point, the feud between Caroline Leavitt and Karine Jean-Pierre has gone far beyond politics. It's become a battle of credibility and legacy. Caroline appears confident, transparent, and sharper than ever. KJP, on the other hand, seems defensive and weighed down by the controversies of her tenure. Add Megyn Kelly's critique, and the cracks in the Democratic establishment are hard to ignore. What began as a simple exchange has become a fight over truth and trust. And right now, Caroline is clearly winning. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content just like this.